In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to replace the Human Touch Novo, Novo XT, or Novo XT2 main PCB board. First thing we're going to do is power off the chair and then unplug it. Next, we're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 3 screws that secure the rear plastic shroud. And we can lift that shroud off just enough to expose the PCB cover. Kind of set it off to the side. And then we'll use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 2 screws that secure the PCB cover. And we can lift that cover off. Note there are slots in the back that secure it, so you may have to push it slightly backward and then up to remove that cover. As a general rule, we don't want to cut zip ties unless we absolutely have to, because the more you can leave the cabling in position, the easier it is when you're going to reinstall. However, we're going to do a couple things just to make working with the cabling a little easier. But first, a real good idea is to take a picture of the cable connections with your phone so that you have it to reference. The boards are different between the Novo XT, and the Novo XT2, but the basic process for replacing a board is the same. So use your phone to take a picture just to make sure you have it. So what we're going to do is just cut 1 zip tie that secures the white cabling in the front. And then you'll see there's cable guides along the left-hand side that are secured by Phillips head screws. We're just going to loosen those. That just gives us a little more play in the cabling, just makes things easier. Okay? And then the next step is to simply start disconnecting connectors. Again, leaving the cabling in place as much as possible, but we're just going to disconnect all the connectors from the main PCB. In general, the connectors should be color coordinated. However, sometimes the colors are just similar. For example, I see here there's some red connectors going into orange bases. So sometimes there is some difference, but it should still be intuitive. Once all the connectors are disconnected, we need to use a Phillips head screwdriver, a short Phillips head screwdriver, to remove the 4 screws that secure the main PCB to the chair frame. There's 2 generally on the right side and 2 on the left-hand side. Now we're ready to remove the board from the chair. Just lift up on the rear edge of the chair, as you're looking at it, that is. Pull up a little bit, slide it a little bit away from you, and to free it from the cabling. All right, to install the new main PCB then, we're going to just complete those steps in reverse. So we start by sliding that PCB into position. And the way you know if you're orienting it properly is those large posts all go along the side farthest away from you. Get those screw holes aligned, and you can replace the 4 screws to secure the board to the chair frame. It's helpful to use a magnetized screwdriver. As you can see, it's easy to drop those screws into the tray. A magnetized screwdriver helps prevent that from happening. Okay, once the board is secure, we're ready to start reconnecting the connectors. Just start in one corner and work your way around. Again, we haven't really moved the cables, so they should be easy to determine what goes where. Again, color coordinated, with the exception that sometimes the colors are merely similar, such as red and orange, instead of identical. As you're connecting each connector, what is critical to this process is that you make sure the connector is seated properly and securely. You can test that by, once you connect it, pulling somewhat firmly up on the connector to make sure that it is fully and completely seated and locked into position. You can see also that a flashlight really helps make this process go smoothly. All right, once everything's reconnected, look around to make sure you haven't missed any connectors, that there aren't any connectors that are simply not plugged in at all. And assuming there are not, go around and check each connector again, push down and then pull up on it to make sure it is completely secured and connected. The most common repair error that we have is connectors not connected or connectors not securely connected after a main PCB replacement. Okay, looks like we're in good shape. So now we can tighten those cable guides over on the left-hand side that we had loosened to allow some more play in the cabling. And then looks like we don't have a zip tie, but you can use another zip tie, a new zip tie, to just replace the one that we cut right there on the white cabling to hold everything in place. And that should do it. We're ready to put the PCB cover back on. And when you do this, note there are slots on the back of the PCB cover. Those slots go over corresponding posts. You can't really see it here, but if you need to kind of lower in the PCB tray, push it down in the back and then slide it forward so those slots catch on those posts. And you'll feel it when they catch. Otherwise, if the slots are not over the posts, you'll end up with some horrible popping noises as the plastic moves around when the chair reclines. Then replace the 2 Phillips head screws to secure the PCB cover. And then we can slide the rear shroud into position. It's a little bit tricky to know when you have it in as far as it goes. The best way is to check the screw holes underneath, and when those holes are aligned, you know you're in the right place. And then we can replace those 3 screws to secure the rear shroud. Then we're ready to just plug in the chair, power it on, and make sure it's working properly.